Hey folks, and welcome back to Fireside Farms. My name is Megan if you're new here, and I live in southwestern New Mexico, USA. And today we are doing the final summer garden tour of the season. Temperatures lately have been still low 90s during the day, but we're getting down into the 60s, which is so nice at night. And yesterday we had a full day of rain. So this garden is hopping and popping for now. But it is the final summer garden tour, which means I'm going to start taking a lot of these plants out soon. I have tons of fall seedlings just waiting to be transplanted. And unfortunately, although my garden is still producing, I need to make room for these fall transplants to go in. So as we go through the garden, I'm gonna let you know what I'm gonna be taking out first, what beds I'm gonna start clearing out. I'm not gonna clear out everything. A lot of these plants will continue to produce until the first frost. So a lot of these pepper plants I have here are gonna stay in, but some of the tomatoes are gonna go, and other just beds that haven't done very well this year. So let's get started on that, and we will see how my desert garden looks at the end of the summer. So here at the southeast corner of the garden, I have my cowpea bed that I planted. I want to say it was at the beginning of summer when I took all of my onions out of this bed. I needed a quick growing crop in the heat of the summer that would produce something. And they have produced me loads of cowpeas. This bed is full of the California Black Eye No. 5. And I've been harvesting a lot of green beans. They look about this size. They're thin without too much bean formation. But I let a lot of them go and they have started drying up, although they still continue to produce tons. But this will be the first bed to go. So unfortunately, they're still giving me green beans, but I'm getting a ton of asparagus beans from the trellises over there. So this is going to be the first bed that I re-amend, and I will have that on a video soon. And look at this lovely bee balm. It had died back in the heat of the summer, but with all these rains that we've been getting, which I mean isn't too much, only a couple rains, but it started blooming again and it's gorgeous. And right across this way over the trellis that used to house my Armenian cucumbers, I have a few select pepper plants and this giant Genovese basil plant that has just taken over literally half the bed. But this is probably going to be one of the second or third beds that I take out. The soil in this bed wasn't really good at the beginning of the season. Both this and my bean bed are brand new built beds for this spring, and I do a lasagna method to keep costs down when I'm building new beds because I have so many and soil costs a lot of money. So the soil was just a bit lacking. My plants didn't do too well, and although my pepper plants did produce, they're just awfully puny. This is supposed to be a holofuego. It's about 4 times larger than this. So I've gotten a few peppers off of these, but for the most part, the plants have just struggled this whole year, and I'm okay with letting them go in the interest of planting more crops here. Contrary to this pepper bed, which is out of control. These are my holofuego plants over here, which are about as tall as I am. These look much more healthy. Oh my gosh. Is this? Oh no, it's not. It's a sugar rush peach. Darn it. So in the spring I seeded some Reaper, is it California Reaper? The really, really hot peppers in the hopes, because Chase really wanted some. And only one seed out of the entire packet germinated and came to fruition. And this poor little guy struggled the entire season. He is finally getting large enough to put on blooms, and the sugar rush peach that I have right next to it keeps sending its stems out, so I think that there's a Reaper pepper in there, and it's not. But this bloom right here, because this is my Reaper plant, and it's being run over by a sugar rush peach right here. But this is a bloom for a Reaper pepper, and I am so excited. Chase will be so happy. it's only taken like 6 months to get to that point. And back at the south end, I have this tomato bed that is pretty much done for the season. With these rains, we got a ton of new healthy growth. I believe this is the chocolate pear that this is growing off of. But I just can't afford to leave this bed until the end of the summer just to get a few more tomatoes off of it. I have 4 different tomato plants in here. 2 of the cherry tomatoes, the chocolate pear and the Mexico midget, have pretty much fallen to disease. And I'm getting regrowth on the chocolate pear and the giant crimson, but I really need this space for my fall plants and something's gotta go. So these tomatoes aren't giving me hardly any tomatoes compared to 2 other beds that I have. It's gotta go. And the fruit that I am getting off of this is supposed to be a giant crimson. And it's more like a cherry crimson. All the fruit that I get off of here is good. It's just so small. I mean, it's like having a cherry tomato plant that only puts out 1 cherry tomato. But I don't mind giving these girls a little snack. See, this is the other side of the same bed, and there's just a ton of new growth on here from this chocolate pear tomato, but I just cannot afford to hold the spot for him to get a few more cherry tomatoes. So unfortunately, this is probably gonna go. Sometime in the next week, I'm gonna take this whole bed down. This is another tomato bed I had that really surprised me this year. This is a determinate variety called the Grand Marshal F1 Hybrid. And after the rains, I expected this tomato to go by way of disease about 2 months ago. Determinate varieties of tomatoes grow a little bit shorter than indeterminate varieties, which just continue to send up foliage throughout its entire life season. Determinate tomatoes will tend to put on all of their blossoms, all of their fruit around the same time span, ripen in the same time span, and then die. This tomato did not do that. It did that at the beginning, looked like it was dying from disease, and then when the rains came, sprouted a ton of new healthy green growth, and now I've got a ton of green tomatoes that are just waiting to ripen on the vine. Like these guys. And they're good, they're large, they're healthy. Oh, man, I have so many green tomatoes in this mess. I do not want to pull this out just yet. If necessary, I will harvest the green tomatoes and fry them or something. But, goodness, it's just all of this green that you see right here on top is brand new growth. And it's still putting out blossoms. Look at that. So I'm not sure what happened here, but I'm definitely growing this variety again. I can tell you that for sure. And here's my 10-foot tomato bed that only has 2 living tomato plants left. Right here is the Estiva, which is so tall. And then over here was, what is this called? A German Queen that I bought as a start after most of the tomato plants right here died from various diseases. It has not put out any fruit for me. I'm assuming it was the heat. The plant looked healthy the whole time it was growing. It does have some disease now, which I'm sure is just rampant around my garden in middle of September. But I also just bought this from Lowe's or Home Depot. I'm not sure if this is a variety that grows real well in 110-degree heat. So it has not put off any fruit for me. I don't need it taking up space. This is probably going to be a bed that I get to pretty soon to take out. As I told you guys before, I'm still deciding on this being my onion bed because I have over 100 onions to plant this year. But I'm only getting 1 or 2 fruits off of this Estiva hybrid as well. So I'm not too worried about losing this bed soon. And all I've got around the sides of these tomatoes are going to be various basil plants. Like right here is a Genovese basil. This is a Thai basil, which smells lovely. And a few red chili plants, which I've been harvesting off and dehydrating as they ripen. This is a pepperoncini, which I've learned this year I'm not too fond of. So as you can see, These are all way overripe pepperoncinis that I just not have used because I don't think I feel like pickling peppers this year. I also reseeded a few bean plants just randomly in some of these beds. I don't know the variety of this. This is not an Asian yard-long bean. As I was going through my seed packets from planting for fall, I found a pack of bean seeds from, was it like 2019 or 2020? They were some brown cowpea version, but I didn't have the name of the bean. So I just threw them in here because I only had a couple beans and I kind of wanted to see if they would still grow and if I could save seeds from them. So a lot of these I haven't eaten and I'm just waiting for them to ripen so I can restock my bean supply of beans that I have no idea what their name is. My other pepper bed, my dedicated pepper bed, is doing okay. I've had a lot of trouble this year in this pepper bed for some reason. I mean, this padron pepper is just abysmal. I mean, every fruit that it puts out is getting more and more gross and small and weird. I'm definitely not saving seeds from this pepper plant this year, but I do have some, like this roulette habanero, which I cannot find. There's one. This roulette habanero is supposed to have a 50-50 chance of being spicy. And so far this year, every one of these I've pulled off has been 0% spicy. And it kind of tastes like a thin-walled banana pepper. I'm actually going to try this on camera because that is how confident I am that there's no heat in this. I hope I don't eat my words. Nothing. I picked this up at the NMSU, the New Mexico State University pepper plant sale, or just plant sale, but they have a lot of pepper varieties because they are the Chili Institute. And it's called a roulette habanero because you just kind of like don't know if you're going to get a hot one or a sweet one, but all of the ones that I picked have been sweet and was kind of disappointing. Not blaming it on the plant sale or anything like that. I just don't think that I will buy seeds for this variety ever. I hadn't even heard of it till I bought the plant at the plant sale. But none of those have been hot, which is sad because I like hot peppers. But I've been harvesting pretty regularly on various red chilies and my one healthy padron pepper plant that I have over here. Let's get this guy. That is a good looking boxy padron pepper. This guy is spicy and I will not be eating him on camera. And even this Bonnie green bell pepper that I planted has given me some fruit. But again, I have, 3 bell peppers on this whole plant and it's taken them until September to produce me one. Thus reinforcing my reasoning to never plant bell peppers. Just take way too long for a couple peppers when there are so many other sweet pepper varieties you could use instead. I don't know. This asparagus bean is still going strong, and this plant is where I'm getting most, or plants, plural, is where I'm getting most of my beans from. It's all the way up and over the trellis. I'm about to touch this giant crimson tomato that I've got. I have saved a bunch of seeds from this giant crimson, and it's still producing fruit, albeit not as big as they should be technically, but we are heading into fall, the nights are cooling off, and as you can see, this plant has a little bit of disease towards the bottom, although it is healthy here at the top. I am thoroughly impressed by the giant crimson tomato from M.I. Gardener this year. It's my first time trying it. And I know that M.I. Gardener found these seeds. I don't know where he found them. I'd have to rewatch the video of the whole discovery process. I mean, but he lives in a vastly different climate than I do. He lives in Michigan. So I wasn't real hopeful that this tomato would work in my hot, dry desert area, but it was one of my best producing tomatoes this year with the least amount of disease. And this guy, this massive forest of tomato right here, was planted mid-season in the heat of the summer, and it still rocked it. Look at that. It's like a tomato bush. So I'm absolutely growing the giant crimson next year, and I've saved seeds from this particular plant because it was so hardy through our desert heat. It's great. I definitely suggest you give it a try, and if you don't know the story behind the giant crimson tomato, look that up. It's very cool. Here on these two 1x4 beds, I have my bean plants, which I still have not composted, but my peas that you and I planted the other day. And we got a bunch of rain yesterday, so the soil is pretty moist. But I do not have germination yet, although I did have some problems right after planting that might be affecting that. Of course, I pull out all the stops, I put on mulch, I put on Sluggo to avoid the roly-polies eating my seedlings. And then cats. Cats come in here, and they dug in both beds 2 separate nights. It's like they knew that I had freshly planted this and were intentionally destroying my chances at having peas for the 4th year in a row. But I fixed the soil and it rained, so hopefully I can get something off these guys. I don't think it was my cats. There's this little black and white stray cat that I see in my garden every morning. She likes to stalk the chickens, but she never does anything. I think it was her or him. It was that one. And right next to this giant crimson, I have all of my okra, which is just a mix of the burgundy red, which is obvious by its red stems, and the Clemson spineless, which I've been harvesting off these pretty regularly. You see these were all pods that I harvested. It's looking pretty barren now, but I've been trying to keep up with these so they don't go to seed, because this will probably be one of the last... Oh, that needs to come off. This will probably be one of the last beds that I pull out, just because I'm still getting tons of okra every day and I'm actually eating it. So look how tall this is. It's taller than me. This is huge. I could just be in a forest of okra. Back in the in-ground garden, these peppers are on their way out. I haven't been watering any of this because I'm wanting the Bermuda grass to die back a little before I replant in here. And on that note, when I made the video the other day of uncovering this and saying that my Bermuda grass had died, y'all were very sweet or condescending, and a lot of you said my Bermuda grass wasn't dead. I'm aware of that. The only thing we have on this property is Bermuda grass because it is so hardy and it's the only thing that lives in this terrible desert. But I wanted the tops to die back enough that they would be easier to rake out of the way, and then I could plant into it. I cannot kill the roots below the soil because Bermuda grass spreads both by seed and by underground roots. So I am very aware that this grass will be back. I just needed it to have a head start in dying back for the winter so that I could plant into it. Because I mean, once winter comes, this stuff is gonna turn all brown anyways. It'll stay dormant until the next spring season. And that's what I wanted. I wanted it using less energy in the soil so that my seedlings could have a fighting chance. But thank you for informing me that the grass was not actually dead. But I've still got this tarp here and I have not moved it or taken it off. And for the most part, this area under the shade cloth is still relatively bare. I've come in a few times and just tried to pull up some of this grass, get it out of the way. I love when I find these long ones. But I think I will be okay planting in this for the winter as long as I just re-amend the soil really well. And my 2 self-seeded potatoes are doing fairly well. I'm not sure if they'll actually give me tubers large enough to use before the winter, but I'm hoping. They're getting pretty big. I might get like 3 or 4 potatoes out of this little guys. How exciting. I do know that the first bed I will be planting in for the fall garden is going to be that bean bed that we saw at the beginning of the video. It's just the easiest thing to pull out right now that isn't giving me a whole lot. I've already pulled off a ton of dried seed pods before the rain to save seeds from those beans. Those are going second or third generation beans that have grown here in my garden. So I want to keep that up and develop a really hardy bean that works well in the sun, the dry, the heat for my area. So that bean bed will be the first. I will definitely plant some of my fall seedlings in that one. As for when I'm going to plant in here, honestly, it'll probably be soon. I just don't know exactly when, because I have to do a lot of amending to these beds. First, I've got to rake back all of the mulch that I have over each row, and then I have to add amendments like fertilizer. I have to add soil on top, and then put mulch back over the top, which I'm running in short supply of. I'm gonna go to the neighbor Paige's house. She's got some old hay, and that's probably what I'm gonna use for mulch this year, so I don't have to buy any straw. But this is going to be a job and a half to take care of before I can plant in it. And the bed is just a lot easier to work with. It's a smaller amount of space. There's not a ton of grass in it that I have to pull up while I'm amending it. So this will be soon, just not sure when. And I know I'm definitely putting plants in here this year because I don't have any room in my main garden beds to plant all my plants. I have so many seedlings. I started so many seedlings, but it's good. It'll be great. I'm just feeling the pressure because I'm down to crunch time. We have 45 days left. Grass. We have 45 days left until our first frost, which is usually around November 1st, and it is the exact middle of September today. So I'm excited. The stress of the summer feels finally over, especially with this rain we got yesterday. It almost feels like fall. It's still cool outside. It's moist in the air. It's like there's life. And I'm very excited for the fall garden, but it is a whole lot of work, again, which I love and I'm not opposed to doing. I just have to do it. And I have to buy more soil this year because I didn't take care of my compost, and I have nothing on the property that I can use, so I've got to get a lot of external inputs this year. But the next video I will be amending that bean bed for the fall garden, so y'all can see how I do that. And then at that point I'll get a good estimate of how many bags of soil I'll need for each bed to top dress it, and then I can probably get like some sort of price for you guys about how much that's going to cost me. It's not going to be pretty. I'm not excited about that, but I have resolved to do better next year and take care of my compost. Let me grab some blushing tomatoes. I really hate reaching in here. Oh, it's pretty cat-faced. Ugh. Still edible. This guy looks okay-ish. Oy. Can I do this with one hand? No. It's such a jungle in there, and I always find so many spiders in here. I hate reaching my hand in. Look at this tomato. He's shaped like a heart. Isn't that the cutest thing? Alright guys, I'm gonna skedaddle and get to work on harvesting some of this stuff before I start tearing it out. I don't wanna. This happens every year. Thank you guys for being here on my last summer garden tour of the season. Don't worry, the garden tours won't stop. They will just be a different season. It will be fall, and I will have a whole different set of plants in here. In the meantime, stand by for my garden amendment video, and you can watch me get real sad when I tear all my plants out. I will catch you on the next one.